Hello, hello. I'm back again with some storytelling of Lovecraft. So let's waste no time and jump in. Starting a new game, yeah. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot. Alright, that's fair enough. That's like a visual novel, I suppose. For that is just good.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Alright. During the game you will encounter interactive elements. Okay. That would be awesome if the narrator would read this, because he has a brilliant voice. Okay. I don't know, should I read it through? Maybe next. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Okay. Is there anything else, like a fish?
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Okay, I just have to make myself a bit more comfortable than I was.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
I don't see here anything. Oh. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War 1861-65 and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Frederick Chartrunier, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Interesting. Okay, there is nothing else, just this ink.
It was in one of the most open and least
my
frequented
friend.
parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was
How you doing?
supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Okay, that's progressing the story. There is some trivia. Lovecraft and the Great War. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. Good, you good? He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I choose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or a piece of shrapnel could more consecutively and effectively dispose of me. Wow, I think he really hated his life. Okay.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Alright. That's progressing the story. Another trivia. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the words Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on 27th July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, on that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China, that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at the German. Okay. I don't know why he was like that. The refusal to take a prisoner was a severe breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the first Hoge Convention of 1899. All right. Anything else? Where does it gonna lead?
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Is it gonna be a good provision? Okay, nothing else here.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
I think we are purged. Okay, that's just progressing the story. And there is nothing else. Alright. I hope I'm not missing anything.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
What the heck was that?
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude, upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know,
Alright.
for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested,
starting
was
something?
continuous.
What the? Alright. This is just not nice. I don't know, so unearthly.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see.
My fish wife.
And in which my boat
It's not
lay
going to
grounded
happen.
some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
I think this is so dark.
For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
Hey, Scarlet. Lovecraft, Shakespeare. Yeah, and Edgar Allan Poe.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity.
Okay.
There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
How these things are still alive.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
All right. Okay. There is something.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my
It
position.
is moving.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
It's a wee bit reminding me about the other game called The Shore.
Nor were there any
Which is also
seafowl to prey
Lovecraftian
upon the
thing.
dead things.
The only that is an FPS.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which
Yeah.
lay upon its side and afforded a
Watching the
slight
dead
shade
fish.
as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
All right.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Okay.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
That's the best thing to do. When you are stuck, just move.
All day I forged steadily
Beach
westward,
vacation.
guided
Oh,
by
yeah.
a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on
With
the
some
rolling desert.
sirens. And Cthulhu as a DJ. Okay, cannot interact with anything. Okay. What the heck? Look at this.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object
these
seemed
leeches?
scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Yeah, that poor bear. Well, I think it's more poor of me. I probably would choose that volcanic ash and the pitch darkness. Because that's more certain than this one here.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had
What is
appeared from
that?
a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined
Wow.
to sleep no more.
So nice.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now
Trying my
felt quite
best.
able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest
Sometimes
of the eminence.
I have to be a manly man. Okay, is there anything else apart of this bag?
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night.
I'm not sure I
Through
would
my
like to
terror
go
ran
down
curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
there. Okay, so nothing there.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
All right.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot
What the hell
definitely
is that, an
analyze,
obelisk?
I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated.
Indeed, today is
All at once,
8th of
my attention
March.
was captured by a vast
Wow.
and singular object on
remember?
the opposite slope,
Because I don't.
which rose steeply about 100 yards. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
What the hell is this?
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Okay,
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
That's fine. You cannot fly today. I cannot speak on any given day. Stygian Abyss.
The moon, now
like
near the
that.
zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
Okay, so that's the ocean there.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
I don't see clearly the top of the monolith, but like under the sea there is some egg maybe, a skull.
Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Jeez, where are you getting these things, Scarlet? If I would be a girl, I would not dream of unicorns. Because unicorns are just an overrated ponies.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever
That must
seen
be the
in books,
Necronomicon.
consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
Yeah.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world,
Most likely with broken necks.
but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the
Okay, that is
ocean-risen plain.
true. In the middle, I think. And then maybe some kraken.
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Storytelling methods. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes that shadow out of time, the Hunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events, mythologies, Migo in the Whisperer in the Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's keep the details in order not to spoil the ending. Good. You don't want to be spoiled.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
Have you
though the
ever
creatures
thought
were
about
shown disporting
writing a
like
book
fishes
or
in the
something?
waters of some
Because
marine
I
grotto,
definitely would read it.
or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well.
What the heck are these?
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Okay, that's Cthulhu. Or maybe Yog-Sothoth. Inanna.
They were damnably human in general outline,
But I don't know.
despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips. Glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
All right. So that's probably why we had a whale.
I remarked, as
On
I
the shore.
say, their grotesqueness and strange size. But in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Okay, nothing.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith,
What the heck?
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
And it never saw
I think
someone
I went
is
mad
there.
then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Wow.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a
What
San
the-
Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Okay, the journalist Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again, for the first time since his teenage years. Dagon, published in 1919, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt, okay, I don't know how to say that word, excerpt from The Conservative, the masters of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than a conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret armaments and at the proper time take advantage of their moral heuristic and less astute contemporaries in a wide career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare until these basic impulses of the human animal shall have miraculously changed. Yeah, but please, it's something never going to happen. I think he was very right about that. It's just human nature.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him
I
with
think that's
peculiar
boys
questions
waking up in a
regarding the
hospital,
ancient
and
Philistine
that
legend
nurse
of
has a
Dagon,
cute
the
dress.
fish god.
That's what would happen. Okay, there is anything. Give me anything. Oh, here we go. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. Okay. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. How? How the god of fertility will go for a patron of a war? No blood. Wow. Maybe a bloody Venusian sculpture. Okay, anything? Let's carry on with the story. Okay, nothing else here, I think.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
The Marketeer. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art. Wow, okay. I definitely would buy anything if that's been advertised like that. Okay, the Necronomicon. Yashub Nigurat. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic, the Catholic mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach. Okay, maybe I'm not going to read it, or at least not loud, because I'm just butchering the text. Sorry about that. I had, back on Hungary, 3 copies of the Necronomicon, and I was so glad to have them. Even I was writing a letter to one of the publisher with a friend, asking for publishing a book. All right. I thought we can come here because there is something. But seemingly no.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
There we started. This was the place.
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Well, when I left Hungary, I gave a book, or all my books, to someone to take care of them. I had 1,500 books. Some of them was even 200 or 300 year old. And when I be in a position
so now,
get the books
I
back,
am to end it all.
they were
having
all
written
gone.
A full account for the information
All of them.
or the contemptuous amusement
Sadly.
of my fellow men.
Alongside with my poems, because I was writing poems and short stories back on Hungary. Some of them even was published. But everything I had, unfortunately, just gone. There's at the desk. Let's write some more in my diary. Oh yeah, my dear diary. That's how it would start, isn't it? Today, in a hospital, when I was working in my nurse dress, administering medications for sick people, I have seen that handsome but mad man which has been brought in from the sea. Something like that, is it? That's what she would write in. Yeah, sad story indeed. Okay.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed. Worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
That was the fish. fish deity, the fish god.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind.
Probably that's what a boy would write.
Of a day when the land shall sink,
But
and the dark ocean shall ascend
I wonder
amidst
if
universal pandemonium.
what is happening here. Look at this. Are those ships? Yeah, they must be ships.
The end is near.
Okay, and is nigh. Or okay, that's funny. That little thingy holding the door back. I don't think so.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me.
Wow, where we are going to hide? You kidding me?
God, that hand!
Wow.
The window! The window!
No way! Ouch. I think I broke my ankle. Okay, I have some DLCs far as I know. Yeah. I bought 2 DLCs. Because this one it was a wee bit short. Let's see. Yeah, I have the little glass bottle and the railway horror. Let's see. It's a short 5-10 minutes adaptation of a story by Howard. Flip.
Heave to! There's something floating to the leeward.
Oh, that's a real boy.
The speaker was a short, stockily built man whose name was William Jones. He was the captain of a small catboat in which he and a party of men were sailing at the time the story opens.
All right.
Aye, aye, sir, answered John Towers, and the boat was brought to a standstill.
It's a little bit more light.
Captain Jones reached out his hand for the object, which he now discerned to be a glass bottle. Nothing but a rum flask that the men on the passing boat threw over, he said. But from an impulse of curiosity, he reached out for it. It was a rum flask, and he was about to throw it away when he noticed a piece of paper in it. He pulled it out, and on it read the following. January 1st, 1864. I am John Jones, who writes this letter. My ship is fast sinking with the treasure on board. I am where it is marked on the enclosed chart. Captain Jones turned the sheet over, and the other side was a chart. On the edge were written these words. Dotted lines represent course we took. Towers, said Captain Jones excitedly, read this. Towers did as he was directed. I think it would pay to go, said Captain Jones. Do you? Just as you say, replied Towers. We'll charter a schooner this very day, said the excited captain. All right, said Towers.
All right.
So they hired a boat.
A pretty nice boat. Oh. Childhood games. One of Lovecraft's favorite children games was creating complex scenes using building blocks, models, tin soldiers, and lots of earth. With their help, he played out various historical scenarios. These events were sometimes short-lived. They represented a war, a plague, or simply a thrilling spectacle of travel, commerce, or some event that led nowhere. But sometimes they spanned long eons, reflecting changes in the appearance of the landscape or buildings. It is especially interesting considering his later writing career. There was a kind of intoxication in being lord of a visible world, albeit a miniature one, and determining the flow of its events. All right. Okay.
And started off governed by the dotted lines of the chart.
Fascination with science. H.P. Lovecraft learned to read at the age of 4. He quickly became interested in exact sciences, especially chemistry. As a 9-year-old, he even started publishing his own amateur magazine, the Scientific Gazette, and sometime later the series, The Chemistry. Around 1900, the future master of horror developed an interest in Antarctica and began writing treatises on the expeditions to the continent. Well, I think this man was really talented.
In 4 weeks, they reached the place where directed.
4 weeks. Wow.
And the divers went down.
Why there are always sharks? Grandpa. Whipple Van Buren Phillips, Lovecraft's grandfather, was a very important figure in his life, as the writer said himself. My beloved grandfather became the center of my universe, selected letters. Van Buren Phillips introduced his grandson to various works of art he brought from his travels, exchanged letters with him, and helped him develop his passions. He largely replaced Lovecraft's dead father. Okay. Interestingly, he also cured him of his fear of dark by encouraging him to walk through a series of dark rooms. Okay, there is nothing else here, sadly.
And came up with an iron bottle. They found in it the following lines scribbled on a piece of brown paper. December 3rd, 1880. Dear Searcher, excuse me for the practical joke I have played on you, but it serves you right to find nothing for your foolish act. Well, it does, said Captain Jones. Go on. However, I will defray your expenses to and from the place you found your bottle. I think it will be $250, so that amount you will find in an iron box. I know where you found the bottle because I put this bottle here. And the iron box. And then found a good place to put the second bottle. Hoping the enclosed money will defray your expenses, some I close. Anonymous.
The biggest troll ever. There are a few puzzling elements in the little glass bottle. For example, the number was 250, which is not a typo, as this amount appears in the text 3 times. It is not entirely clear why Lovecraft decided to write out the number this way and what he meant by it, while publishers and translators interpret it in various ways. In our opinion, he most likely meant 250. Or can it be it's a coordinate or something? And the sky too. The map is used in the game replicates the original version drawn by Lovecraft for the story. Did you notice that the land marked on this sign as Australia? A simple typo, or maybe a young Howard was already creating his own lands, an unknown island in his imagination. It is also puzzling that the dates in the letters in both bottles are almost 17 years apart.
I'd like to kick his head off, said Captain Jones. Here, diver, go and get the $250.
Is there any other thingy?
In a minute, the diver came up bearing an iron box. Inside it was found $250. It defrayed their expenses. But I hardly think that they will ever go to a mysterious place as directed by a mysterious bottle.
All right. And there should be one more. Okay. Probably I have to exit. And let's see the other DLC. Werewolves are waiting. Waiting for what? A prey? Okay, I missed 4 trivia. Doesn't matter. Okay. The Eldritch Box DLC. What the heck? Okay, that is kind of interesting because of might be these things are not out just yet. For a full moon, for a blood moon. Okay, that is not good. Okay, I don't know. It should be out, and it should be installed, yet it won't work. Yeah, it's just sad. Okay. So, for some reason, we're not going to have the railway horror. Button says broke. Institutes of Fortuna had reduced a once proud windcloth to tatters, ruined upon the cliff of despair. I'm sad. I'm sad. It's me being ruined and tossed into the despair because of the thing won't work. That's very bad. Okay. But I believe this is it. This is so sad. Alright. Looks like there is nothing else left than stop this thingy. It was nearly an hour, half of the usual time. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the end, because even though I bought the little glass bottle and the railway horror, this one won't start, and I don't know why. It came out on 17th of February, and today is 8th of March. So I have no idea why this thing is not coming up. Wait. Planned release date to be announced. Alright, then this is the reason. So these ones are not out. But for some reason I thought the railway horror is out. So that too is yet to come at some point. Thank you very much for the team to be here and giving me a good time, even though if the moon is gibbous or maybe just flat, I don't know. We're gonna see that next time in some other game, maybe a manly game. If you have Scarlet, if you have any idea for a manly game, let me know. Please. Guys, thank you very much to be here, and you know, as always, be good, stay safe, and see you next time.